What time is it? Yeah. I had to get that in. I had to get that in. We're going to talk about trading insecurities today. And I don't know how this is going to go because I wrote this down a couple days ago and I've been sort of thinking about this. And what's interesting is my hands are so dry. What's interesting is sometimes you can write something down and in the moment you're flowing, you're flowing, and you put yourself in this crazy state of creation, or at least I presume it to be creative because it makes it sound like I'm doing something more important. But from the perspective of if I'm going to come on here and talk about it, I certainly like to think about what I was thinking about and not lose the essence of the message. So we know what time it is. We're medicated. This chapstick is really doing it for me, man. I'm telling you. It's a great chapstick. And we have our hydration. I've noticed I'm almost at the point where I don't drink water while I'm streaming anymore. And you're kind of saying to yourself, why is that important? Why would I join a live stream to hear some egghead bald dude talk about how he doesn't hydrate at 4:30 in the morning? Well, it's the process. It's the growth. You may not see it that way. And maybe it's easy for me to see it that way because I'm rationalizing and making sense of something that maybe doesn't make sense. That's possible. The red book. What is this today? The red book of what? The red book of what are you today? The red book of insecurities. There you go. Oh, the pen almost dropped. The red book of insecurities. I want to say something today. I think I might have said it. What day is it? Day 43? It is day 43 of the Do You Rules live stream experience. And still not all the way settled. And I'll get into why. Okay. I want to discuss the possibility of trading insecurities. Trading insecurities, which would, I guess, offer as a baseline that we all have insecurities. Is that not reasonable? Are we all insecure in some way? Or is the process of becoming self actualized, does that mean you rid yourself of insecurities? Interestingly enough, I went over Maslow's hierarchy last night again, unintentionally. It was during my reading, it was in there. And the self actualized person is someone who has decided, in short, that there's a higher purpose, higher calling, and they sort of sacrifice themselves for something greater. And I wonder, someone who is self actualized, that possibly when they do decide to sacrifice themselves, is it for something greater for everyone, or is it something that is perceptually greater for yourself? And considering the times we live in, the influence of life and the influence we could have on life and the influence available to us to influence life, I start to question these things. Trading insecurities. Bear with me. I wrote something down to the effect of the ordinary becomes extraordinary when we do extra of the ordinary. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when we do extra of the ordinary. Let's agree to this. Let's agree that you seriously are interested in improving every day, because I just can't seem to let a day go by where I don't at least talk out loud about the possibility of improving every single day. Because if I don't, then I run the risk of not focusing on improving every day. And it is we who defines things, or we who define things. And so in that way, I am the only person who is who is eligible and authoritative enough to know for sure whether or not I'm improving every single day. Naturally, I can look to influence myself and influence myself from the perspective of the way I speak to myself. I can convince myself that I am making progress every day, that I'm doing something daily to build momentum and move forward. But as we've already discussed and talked about briefly, or maybe in some detail,
Yo, why
the
you looking
pain
at
and
me? You
pleasure
know it's on you,
process
baby.
of how we work. Oh, excuse me. My soundboard's going
Yo,
off.
why you looking at me? You know it's on you, baby.
No, it's on you, baby. Ooh. Give me 1 second here. Oh man, I was feeling it. I was feeling the feeling of things starting to happen that were going to feel sensational. Why? Because I have convinced myself that I am improving every day. All right, let's see if I can get back and track back to where I was going. Ooh, life is beautiful. Life is absolutely beautiful and amazing. If you if you have life today, thank God. However you have life, I get it. Some of us are struggling. Some of us are not necessarily where we want to be. Some of us are very insecure about where we are, and it hurts. I, I can't help you get around that if you don't choose to get around that. But if you choose to open up yourself to the possibility that life is beautiful for everybody, then guess what? Life can offer you massive beauty. Life is beautiful. Life offers you the possibility for beauty at every second. If you so choose to just see the beauty available to you in life that begins with you. All right, let's get into this. Or let's get back into this. The ordinary, the ordinary becomes extraordinary when we do extra of the ordinary. Let's let's resettle and recenter ourselves. What is ordinary for you today? What is ordinary? And I'm going to argue and reason, I think, as I start to go back through what drove me towards this topic, is that I wrote this down. My insecurities bond me securely. And I really, man, I know where I want to go with this, and I'm trying so hard to ensure that it's sensible. But let's presume that you are looking to make progress daily. It is only you who can define for sure whether you are making progress, and you can certainly convince your surroundings of that fact. But only you know this, right? Extra of the ordinary. The improvement process. The improvement process is a lot of ordinary things. It is a lot of ordinary. There isn't a lot of sensational sort of stage moments in the process. If you haven't figured it out on yourself, on your own already, there just isn't. So, man, man, I was in a space, I lost my space, and now I'm frustrating myself. Let me regroup. Let me regroup. Damn, man. I'm really frustrated right now. A live moment of frustration. Maybe I'll get back to what my point was. Maybe I won't. It's 4:40 a.m. You know, it is what it is, right? I can't I can't be someone who champions the reality that some days are just not going to go and flow the way you want it to go, and you got to sort of deal with it. And it comes in varying ways. For you, it could be different. For me, you talk about insecurity. Not having the type of morning I want to have could destroy my entire day. And you're probably thinking, that's true for all of us, Jeff. Yeah, but in my learnings in the improvement process, when you focus intently and consciously on a specific task for the intention around a specific goal, this is when we really talk about the micro and the macro. The macro experience of life, which is highly influential from the perspective of just consider that the macro view is your stage character. It is who you want the world to believe you are. All right? And take that however you want to take it. Because again, only you really know who you are. Whatever. That's why I don't try to judge for many reasons. And I always go through that line. What you condemn will condemn you. What you judge, you ultimately become. So as I'm learning to sort of mature and self-actualize in that way, I work very diligently on eliminating the judgment process from my consciousness. And a lot of the reality around eliminating the judgment process from my consciousness is acknowledging when I start to judge, inclusive of myself, and investigate sort of what's transpiring, and then do my best to not identify with that. So that's part of what I think is an important process in the improvement process. And this goes back to trading insecurities. So your stage character, naturally, when you're displaying it, is the macro view. It is what looks good on camera. It is what looks good to the crowd and what looks good to the audience. And in that way, we can sort of convince ourselves that, you see, this is when I'm this way, or I can convince everyone that that I am this way, and because I can convince everyone I am this way, I can convince myself of the same. Not true. Not true. Because we know what our insecurities are, do we not? I know mine. I'm very in tune with mine. I'm very alert to my insecurities. I'm very alert to the reality to what I was referencing to that got me sort of into this tangential diatribe around if I have a task that is micro for the macro, and this is me on the mic is more of is a larger micro and could be part of the macro. That this is where I want to be securely for however long I can do this securely. And when it doesn't go the way I want it to go, then that presents a challenge for me. That presents a massive challenge for me. And how do I move through that? How do I motivate, inspire, and still find the courage and the discipline to do it? Well, I have to realize, and this is sort of what I wrote down, I'm trading insecurities. I'm trading insecurities. So let's imagine that even today, day 43 in, I have my alarm set right now for 6 a.m. The reason I have my alarm set for 6 a.m. is because when I woke up today at 3:15, I beat the alarm. I'm pretty much at this point up and ready to go at 3:15 every day. I went through the mental process of, do I need to get up today at 3:30? Imagine that. I'm 43 days in of 3:30, which the science and the circadian rhythm will tell you after 3 days, your body is locked in and it essentially becomes its own alarm clock. I've done this time and time and time again, and it's not as if this 43-day challenge, so to speak, for me. I think it's 43, might be 42. It was about 1,000 days where I woke up at 4. So 3:30 and 4 is not that difference. Over 1,000 days of doing this, I can convince myself that I don't need to do it today. Why is that relevant and important? Well, the reality to what this improvement space and trading insecurities amounts to is I can convince I can convince and go on stage and speak very eloquently and in detail about the power of changing something as simple as your morning routine, inclusive of getting up at an ungodly hour to produce a sort of lifestyle for yourself that is conducive to a level of self success, self actualization, possibly because self actualization still is defined as doing something greater than yourself, even if what you're doing that's greater than yourself is not for the greater good, right? You got to be open to those possibilities too. Life's bigger. There's more to this than just what I'm seeing. So you have that epiphany, you have that moment. You're looking to become actualized, but along the way and along the journey, sort of what needs to be built too is self-esteem, relational security. You have to be able to experience life outside of yourself with peers. And then you have to have some of the basic foundations of safety and food and all those things. That's the backwards trip through through Maslow's hierarchy, right? In any event, I can very securely not wake up at 3:30, convince myself that I can go right back into sleep because I've put in so much work around getting up at this time that I can take a day off. And I can. And nothing's gonna happen to me if I take the day off. No one's gonna miss me being on at 4 o'clock. Actually, I get on at 4:30, right? No one's gonna miss me streaming live at 4:30. No one's gonna miss, and I know this. I know this. Okay. And so there's that reality. I also know that I haven't just been putting in the days to get up at 3:30. I've been putting in the work. Why would you get up at 3:30? Certainly not to just stare at myself in the camera and what like what there's it's a process, right? We know this, you know this, I know this. But what I'm learning about the macro, the stage view, the person you want everyone to believe you are, including yourself. You should convince yourself that you are who you believe you are. And really you have already convinced yourself that you are who you think you are. And a lot of that too is ego driven in the sense that you reason and rationalize and convince yourself of exactly who you think you are because if you didn't, who would you be? Right? That includes, did I say excuses? We make excuses for ourselves. We certainly do. And if you haven't realized what's occurring when you are making excuses and you aren't able to delineate between what are excuses and are not, then I question where you're at in the improvement process. And I question if you're even trying to improve. You could reason and excuse yourself out of improving every day in your life. A lot of us do that. I said this before. One of the most mind blowing stats that hit me in my soul and hit me in my heart. It makes me really. I questioned the other day, what is the intent of someone who is looking to be an influence in life solely to have the reward of life influencing just them? I don't know if I said it the way I'm trying to say it. Versus somebody who is trying to influence life because they really believe they can influence life, right? Naturally, and this is why I always pause, and this could be part of my insecurities and me trying to securely rationalize this. I can't be hypocritical. We talk about authenticity and people who are very, very genuine. My wife was explaining to me somebody who's like 70 and got on social media and just gives a whole bunch of advice, home improvement advice, life advice, children advice, etc. And he did it because he was helping his daughter. And I guess his daughter sort of kind of got him to film it. In any event, the intent to influence was not indicative of trying to obtain something individually. right? Yet in the same way, in order to influence, you have to subject yourself to what comes with being an influencer, so to speak, and then you'd be rewarded, presuming, of course, you're successful at influencing. So you got to be intentional to influence and have an impact bigger than you, to become self-actualized. If it's bigger than me, I'm willing to make the sacrifice to say, I'll submit myself to all the scrutiny and insecurity that comes with influencing, but I also know I'm going to get a reward for it. But if the reward you seek is solely individualized, just for you to be put on a pedestal or in an ivory tower or to accrue self-richness, then I question your motive. But in the same way, does everyone who is out to influence not have that motive, whether secretly or not? And then that makes me insecure in that, what exactly am I doing? If I don't receive the benefit of this, because I know I expect to receive a benefit from this, otherwise why do it? Who's necessarily right or wrong, or whose motive is more pure? I wonder. Back to what I was saying. The stat that blew my mind and hit me in my soul that makes me want to talk out loud and just help start the conversation and be that's a reality too. I want to be included in the conversation. I've learned that. I want to be included. I like to be included. I like to have a voice. If you don't, fine. If you do, cool, then let's have a voice, right? 25% of people have become sedentary, which makes me question, what excuse, reason, and rationalization have you given yourself to become sedentary? That you don't move. That you don't move at all. Forget about trying to improve daily, which I hope I can be a visual stimulation, visual, whatever. That's part of why I come on at this time. And I'm a regular dude doing regular things, working a regular job with a regular family lifestyle, and I can be up at 3:30, show you that my phone goes off at 4:30 when I click record, and I can get something out of it. Why? Because I worry that somebody could be sedentary. And naturally I worry that someone can be sedentary because I have learned to be insecure that I could become sedentary. Massively scared of that. I'm scared of deciding just one day to just not move and then have another day of not moving and another day of not moving until my life becomes a life of not moving. And we say that out loud, and we think, oh, that's horrible. Oh, or maybe no, nobody does that. Well, we all know somebody like that. There are people, and I'm talking about, it's not just someone who's like 90. I'm talking about people who still have a lot of life left. A lot of life left that don't move. That don't move. And it's not just, well, I'm talking about moving in all phases. You're not moving physically. You're not moving emotionally. You're not moving spiritually. You're not moving in how you influence your own life. That's what and I'm sensitive to not, I really don't want to offend anybody. I used to think I wanted to do that. I used to think I wanted to be confrontational and sort of be in your face about drill instructor style, right? You ever seen like a boot camp? And sometimes I know I can be that. I know I can be that, but that's not, I don't, I want to be able to reason and rationalize. Trade insecurities. Trade insecurities. What is it about this beautiful possibility of life? And I get that things happen. I get that things happen. I get that some things are more fortunate than others. I get that. I get it. But why have you decided to stop moving? What reasons do you come up with in your life to say that I'm not? I'm just not. Do you even? and I have to think that at some point you you stop realizing it. That you could be in such a sedentary state that it just is every day. You don't move. I worry about that for people because then something happens inevitably because we're deteriorating as we go, and you have no shot. You have no shot. You already have no shot when life hits you if it decides to hit you in a way where it doesn't give you a shot. But certainly, if you're doing nothing, like really doing nothing, and some people are doing. I talked about this yesterday. A lot of something that equals nothing to detract and distract and put blinders on from that fact that you're doing a lot of something for nothing. And you can say, Jeff, you're judging. You're right. I'm not trying to. I'm just asking a question. I'm asking a question. If you wake up a little insecure about, because if you can be 5% conscious, sort of like what I said yesterday, and you have your metal detector on, you have your conscious detector on, and every now and again you get a beep beep beep, and you look up and you look around and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the same place at the same time doing the same thing I do every day. That's where you want to be. But if you're in the same place at the same time doing the same thing you do every day, and the same thing you're doing is being sedentary or not moving or doing nothing, I'm just asking a question. I'm just asking a question. What has you so insecure? If I go like I said, I'm not immune, and that insecurity of not moving, of and for me, it was, yes, I was overweight. Yes, I was drinking way too much. Yes, I was ignoring my relationships. Yes, I was on the verge of ignoring my career and my profession. Yes, I was also on the verge of not realizing that I was going to be in a perpetual state of being exactly where I was at. I had that wake up, and traditionally, I don't know if it's psychoanalysis per se, but a lot of folks will drive you towards this midlife realization. Is it a crisis? I'll accept that it's a crisis. I'll accept that it's a crisis. One second. So I'll accept that. It's a crisis. What happens during a midlife crisis? I feel also, considering I might have gone through it, 43 going on 44, that you wake up, the bell rings from a consciousness perspective, beep, 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 beep. Look, this is what's going to happen if you keep doing exactly what you're doing. And you might think you're doing it well, and maybe you are. I can't judge. I can't tell you if you're doing it well or not. I'm just talking about if the improvement and consciousness process has become so prevalent, if there seems to be an undercurrent and a movement towards this actualization of life, if there seems to be more and more of us questioning what more is there, and clearly it's some sort of crisis or realization that we're coming to collectively, right? That's the power of collective consciousness too. It could also be the power of influence and attraction, that because I'm so focused and inundated with this process that all I see is this. And then I convince myself. We're convincing ourselves one way or the other. You've convinced yourself already. If I can convince you otherwise, great. Like I said, if I can convince you that everything I'm saying just reinforces that you should just keep doing what you're doing, great. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm already insecure enough about what I am unable to do because I've already lost too much time to waste more time to make it as succinct as possible. So here we are. Here we are. Exactly where we are. And in the process of whatever this process is, you know, I didn't get into depth about trading and securities, but I really want to talk about what you do today, including being Your choice is to be sedentary if that's your choice, or to move and do a lot of nothing. I'm about to sneeze. Hold on 1 second. Woo! All right. This is my point that I believe has me so hot and bothered. You are secure in whatever you're doing today, even if it's and in that way, you are secure around what makes you insecure. And you are insecure about what makes you secure. If you have put yourself in a perpetual state of nothingness, then jumping out of that will make you very insecure. Because if you decide to make a movement, it's going to be in the opposite direction. Why wouldn't it be? You don't make a move in the same direction. That's not a move. Deciding to go and do the same things you've been doing, that's not a move. So in that way, when you decide to make a move, you will become massively insecure. Why? Because it's something new. Everything new makes you insecure. Yes, you go through the honeymoon phase and the initial wave of, oh my God, I'm doing all these great things. I'm going to change my life. And then like 2.5 days later, you're right back where you started. However, not my point, not casting aspersions. And I believe you can do it for longer than 2.5 days if you just so decide to become insecure about this security and secure about all other insecurities. Think about it. What you do today, if you made a pivot, would make you insecure. However, you want to make the pivot because you're insecure about what you're doing today. If you're not where you want to be and you believe you need to make a move, then you are insecure about what you are doing today. Have you not come to that realization? However, and in the same way, because of how consciousness works, because of how our lives work, you are secure in your insecurities. In that, even if you do nothing, it keeps you safe and secure. So you do nothing because you run the risk of being insecure. Which I make the argument to then, you are insecure anyway. So what really are you doing? What are we doing? Presuming, of course, you think you want to make a change and you reach some sort of crisis like I did. And what I offer you as somebody who's 1,000 days and has been on doing at least this for 42, 43, whatever the hell it is, and will keep doing this for as long as I think I need to do it, at least 100. If you make a change and allow yourself to go the insecure route, which is the opposite direction of where you are today, then at some point you can become securely insecure with those insecurities. In that, if you just continue, this is the power of the improvement process. This is the power of consciousness, of self-actualization, that you need to understand is bigger than you. Otherwise, you won't continue to move down the insecure route. You need to understand it's greater and grander and a lot more vast than you realized. Otherwise, you won't go the insecure route. You need to realize that there's a higher power, higher spirit, and life is abundant in ways you couldn't even fathom. Otherwise, you will not go the insecure route. And the insecure route, you can become very secure about if you just decide to repeat it the way you're repeating it today. You've proven. In my estimation, there is nothing, I don't want to say worse, but I can't think of a more difficult life for myself than to do nothing with my life. And if you have become secure enough to realize that you are massively insecure about doing something and you prefer to do nothing, and that is your security, you are already securely insecure. And so now I offer the possibility that what makes me insecure now, even as I can be insecure in front of you, imagine that I could click record and not know what I'm going to say, not know how it's going to come out, not feel good about the experience, know that nobody's going to watch, But if I don't do it, then I feel very insecure about the rest of my day. That the alarm clock could go off and I can know, damn, I can reset it for 6 o'clock. Nobody's gonna know any different. No one's gonna know. I can go right back into bed. I know you've heard this cliche, but if I do, I become insecure. That if I don't journal, if I don't pray, if I don't lift, if I don't run, it makes me insecure. And now when I do it, I become more secure. Whether or not it came out exactly how I wanted, whether or not I lifted as heavy as I could, ran as fast and as far as I could, or that I had the best possible recording session during my influential phase of life. It wasn't always this way. There was a point I was doing, I want to say the opposite, but I had other insecurities. There was a point where I felt very insecure if I didn't have a drink. I was very insecure if I didn't crash out, if I didn't have some sort of conflict with in my relationships. Imagine that you could be secure or become insecure about not having conflict in your relationships. Blaming your boss, blaming your colleagues, blaming the dead end job for the reality that you're not where you want to be professionally. Blaming your spouse, your significant other for the relationship not being where it could possibly be. And on and on. I could do this across every spectrum. That is where you are securely insecure and insecurely secure. And left to deviate from that, it becomes painful. Well, guess what? It's going to be painful either way, whether you have the crisis or not. All I'm suggesting is that you can surely run from your insecurities, but you can do so in a way that makes you secure towards growth. Can you not? It's the proverbial seed that gets planted into the dark, into the ground, underneath the soil. For all intents and purposes, you can see that it's suffocating, right? But yet, in the same way, it needs the air, it needs the soil, it needs the dirt, it needs the grime, it needs the insects, it needs the sun, it needs the light, it needs the dark. All these things that you already know. All these things that you already know, that we already know, that it doesn't take much other than you just thinking about it to realize it. There's nothing that someone can express to you that you don't already know if you just but took the time to look. There's nothing you will find or that you could find that someone else could show you that you wouldn't find on your own. It's just a question of, do you want to trade your insecurities? Do you prefer to be sedentary or as close to sedentary or as close to doing something for nothing as possible to keep you secure in your current life? Regardless of whose fault it is. Or would you prefer to choose a path that keeps you insecurely secure about making constant micro movements towards a macro view? Something bigger than you, something greater. Why not, right? Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich. Ooh.